Joining us now to discuss the next steps for the White House is former Republican Congressman Tom Davis and also Laurie A. Watkins, who was a policy advisor to President Barack Obama. Congressman, you were well known for bipartisanship, getting both sides to work together. Would you have to get both sides of the Republican movement to work together to get a common theme through all of this?
Well, I don't think this is a political decision. I think when presidents sit there as the chief executive, commander-in-chief, you look at what's good for the country at that time. And I think he just sees Iran as an existential threat to this country. We tried once before of staying out of it, and we got bombed on 9/11. And so I think he's being proactive in doing what he feels as commander-in-chief is, and let the politics lay where they may. Now, that's not to say politics don't have a role in this downstream. I've been through, remember, I was in the Army during Vietnam. I served in the Nixon administration, saw the Iraq War. Americans have very low tolerance for this, and I think the Iranians understand that. But I think the president did what he thought he needed to do at this point with Iran.
Laurie, as well as working in the White House, you also worked at the Pentagon. If you were a Republican, what would you advise Donald Trump to do now? Troops on the ground?
Absolutely not, even though that's the posture that we are leading to, the second and third order of effects that we are seeing happen. I don't know how we, based on what the president continues to say that his goal is, that we don't send troops on the ground. But I would like to start by saying and acknowledging the 7 U.S. service members whose lives have already been lost, as well as 140 U.S. service members have been severely injured in this conflict already, and we're only into week 2.
What we have seen is, of course, the numbers have been going up over the last couple of days as they announced the number of injuries. No person embodies the Republican political divide on this issue more than Vice President J.D. Vance. The former Marine has been a clear voice for the America First doctrine. He was fiercely against the idea of foreign U.S. military intervention. And as John Hendren now reports, it's left him struggling to articulate President Donald Trump's strategy or the rationale for attacking Iran.
The Iran war has set off an intellectual battle within the Republican Party and a conflict for one of its leading voices. It pits J.D. Vance.
Our interest, I think, very much is in not going to war with Iran, right?
Against J.D. Vance.
We're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program.
2 years have passed between those two statements. In that time, the vice president has gone on something of an ideological journey. Vance rose to political prominence as an Iraq War veteran who'd become an anti-interventionist and critic of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. In the 2024 election campaign, as candidate Donald Trump's running mate, then Senator Vance argued that Trump would not send Americans to fight wars overseas.
We're going to stop sending our young people to faraway lands. We are not the policemen of the world.
That was then. This is now, during President Donald Trump's war.
He's not going to let his country go to war unless there's a clearly defined objective. He's defined that objective as Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon and has to commit long-term to never trying to rebuild their nuclear capability. It's pretty clear. It's pretty simple.
Vance now argues that this time the U.S. would avoid the kind of quagmires that extended the Middle East wars of the past.
Have you said thank you once?
He opposed U.S. involvement in the war in Ukraine.
We ought to focus on our own security, not subsidize European welfare. They can take care of themselves.
Supporting President Trump's war in Iran could come at a political cost. As a likely presidential candidate in 2028, Vance faces the challenge of holding together the coalition that propelled Republicans to victory in 2024. His defense of the war could complicate his political future in a party that remains divided over foreign intervention. Vance and the Trump administration are already contending with the ire of conservative isolationists who oppose the war.
Nothing whatsoever to do with us. This is Israel's war.
That's a contention the Trump administration faces today, and if he becomes the party's next standard bearer, one that Vance might well confront in 2028. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Let's go back to our guests, Tom Davis and Laurie Watkins. Laurie, J.D. Vance has been conspicuous by his absence here. He's not outselling the war. Do you think that's something that Donald Trump should be concerned about?
Yes, absolutely. Your vice president is supposed to support what the president does and be actually out there talking to the American public. And we're not seeing that at all. And in my opinion, Donald Trump is setting him up as a 2028 candidate for absolute failure. He can't run away from this. They are in this war together. He can flip-flop around from his positions and what helped him get elected, but everyone sees through this. And earlier your piece said that Hegseth and Rubio, for example, are at each other's throat. I just want to point out that that is another signal that this was not a thought-out and well-planned endeavor. When you have the secretaries of the most important departments that are not even on the same page, and this is being aired out for public opinion to, affect these poll numbers that we're seeing, it's a disaster. And at the American public's expense, and of course our U.S. service members and those who perform duties in intelligence.
Tom Davis, if you sign up, Donald Trump says there's philosophical differences on the war with his vice president. He's got to go along, doesn't he? Because if you sign up to be vice president, there's a collective responsibility, isn't there?
You've got no choice. But I just point out that when President Obama did his nuclear treaty with Iran, the Senate majority, the Democratic leader in the Senate, voted against that treaty. So having division within a party is not uncommon in these things. You have one commander-in-chief, you have a lot of counter pressures, and you've got to make the decision that you think is best for the country. I think politics clearly didn't drive this decision. The convenient thing is to stay out of this and let the good times roll. But I think the president saw a necessity of going in now while Iran was weakened and go in and try to finish the job.
Does this hurt J.D. Vance in the long term? Sorry, Laurie, you wanted to say something.
I was going to say, let's not kid ourselves here. Donald Trump is all about politics. He cares. That's all he cares about is public opinion, his ego, how he polls, the stock market and how it's doing. So I don't know how you don't make this political when he has made it political. And he is losing. The Republican Party is losing. And we're going to see the House completely flip in November. And maybe we're even going to see the Senate do the same.
Tom, you're nodding along there. Are you in agreement here?
We were talking about it out there.
Well, look, I mean, how many presidents always lose seats in midterm elections? All but 3 times in American history, they've lost the House. So I think you got to put this into an historical perspective. But presidents have a higher duty than just getting elected and getting their members elected, and that's doing what they think is right for the country. I think that's what drove the president in this case.
But if you make yourself the guy who hasn't started any foreign wars in the first term, and then you launch 3 attacks on Iran, on Venezuela, and then a war on Iran, that's not a good look, is it?
Well, it depends how they turn out. I mean, if you're in and out, I don't see any damage at all on the Venezuela thing. I think the American public supports that, even though Democrats were very quick to critique it at the time. Anytime Donald Trump says yes, they say no. I think this has to play out. But there's a lot of political pressure domestically on the president, but there's also geopolitical pressure in the Middle East that are going to go after, make him drive his decision.
We could go on,
yes,
but we're going to have to draw a line under it there. Thanks very much indeed for you both, Laurie Watkins and Tom Davis. Thank you very much.